When most people think about ants, if they think about them at all, ants are pests in the pantry or on a picnic. But here, the ant is the king of the jungle.
They are constantly on the hunt.
I learned early that ants are controlling the world under our feet. Down there as an infant, I would watch them doing all these things that were very human-like, building roads, working together to collect food. Ants do all kinds of things that even primates like a chimpanzee don't have to deal with.
Ants can lift between 50 and 200 times their own weight and withstand between 3,000 and 5,000 times their own weight in pressure.
If you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to what others think, you will never be rich.
A lot of these ants are carrying leaves with hitchhikers on them.
That's right, and this was something that early explorers even pointed out. Why are these little ants climbing on top of the leaves and getting hauled along? Well, one reason is it probably costs the colony less energy for them to stand on the leaves than to walk themselves. So this is just good economics.
Carpooling.
Carpooling it is.
These leaf cutters are carrying their booty back to the colony, but they're not going to eat the leaves.
No, they don't actually eat these leaves, and you would think they would because they're carrying literally pound after pound of leaf down this tree, but they actually turn them into a mulch on which they raise a fungus. They are fungus-eating ants.
They're totally farmers.
They're entirely farmers. In fact, they do everything you think human farmers do.
Colonies.
And according to Deborah Gordon, professor of biology at Stanford, they do it all without a boss.
In an ant colony, there's nobody in charge. There are no bureaucrats. There are no foremen. There are no managers. There's nobody telling anybody what to do. We put a lot of effort into thinking through how to organize some of the things that we try to do as groups. Ants don't put in any effort at all. They're pretty messy about it, and it works really well.
Most ants, it turns out, simply follow the crowd.
Of an enormous underground structure, the nest, which is basically a giant nursery, a nice, cozy place to raise babies. A lot of babies. Their mother, the queen, roams around the nest while laying 1,500 eggs a day. Now, all those baby ants need to live in a narrow temperature range to grow. So that nest sports temperature-controlled rooms, and it does so without the help of an AC unit. The secret is in the design. The nest is arranged like an ice cream cone. At the top, you have the mound, the ice cream, as it were. Because it's above the surface, it warms from the heat of the sun. So the babies can snuggle up in toasty chambers networked throughout the mound. But they can't stay there all day, or they'd get too hot. That's where the cone part of the ice cream cone comes in. The mound is connected to several vertical shafts that plunge up to 2 meters beneath the ground. That's taller than most humans. Throughout the day, adult ants ferry the babies up and down the shafts, chasing that perfect temperature for their young charges. The nest also sports dozens of tapering tunnels that branch off from these main shafts. These connect to small chambers where the ants rest, eat, and feed the babies until it's time to move the little ones once again. Now, there's one more type of tunnel inside the nest, but only a few ants ever use it. You see, someone needs to find food for the rest of the colony, but running around outside the nest is dangerous business. That's where forager tunnels come in. These are a couple of horizontal passages buried just a few centimeters from the surface. But they run throughout the entire territory, which can cover up to 185 square meters of land. By scurrying through these passageways, the scouts can stay underground as long as possible. But unfortunately, the nest and all its roads can't protect the ants from every threat. It turns out all sorts of critters sneak inside fire ant nests. And while many of them are actually harmless, others are horrible house guests. For example, beetles burrow into the nest and devour the eggs and larvae. But invaders aren't the only threat to the colony. Occasionally, clueless humans or major floods disturb the nest. And when that happens, the fire ants have only one option: leave. Once a year, on average, the colony will move out and build an entirely new nest from scratch. And best of all, they only need a few days to do it. That's right, practically overnight, meters upon meters of tunnels can pop up in your yard. And all you'll notice is a tiny mound.
Ants are like human beings. They farm, raise livestock, launch armies into war, use chemical sprays to alarm and confuse enemies, and capture slaves. They tirelessly build and rebuild bridges, tunnels, and housing. They work in communities, engage in offspring labor, and exchange information ceaselessly. Like humans, they do what we do, except they don't watch television.